Hello, everyone, and welcome to another incredible game. This one from round 3 of the Fujairah Global Tournament 2025, featuring Polish Grandmaster Kacper Piorun and Nikolas Theodorou. We've already covered one game by Nikolas, and you guys said that you would like to see more. And this game is just mind blowing. It's and what makes it even more interesting is that Kacper is not just a 2-time Polish champion; he's also a 6-time world chess solving champion. So for someone playing as weird chess as Nikolas, the pirate chess, Kacper seems like the ideal opponent. Can he solve everything that Nikolas throws at him? So let's check it out. Kacper with white opens with pawn to d4. We have knight to f6, pawn to c4, pawn to c5, we have d5, and of course the Benko gambit. Pawn to b5 by Nikolas. We have captures on b5, a6, and captures on a6. So this is the main line of the Benko, considering the gambit to be fully accepted. And usually you will see g6 or bishop captures on a6 here. But more often nowadays, pawn to e6 is being played, as it is the top move recommended by the engine. And, as engines are getting more and more powerful, of course, players try new ideas. And, okay, you're fighting for the center right away. And it's you could play something like knight to c3 and then allow black to capture in the center, something like captures. You play bishop to e7, and okay, white wins the bishop pair, but black has incredible development for the price of 2 pawns for the moment. But of course, everyone who played the Benko knows that that's not really a thing. So after pawn to e6, we have d captures on e6, we have f captures on e6, and now knight to c3, followed by not pawn to d5, which seems like the ideal move, just grabbing the center. First, bishop captures on a6, and now you're preventing white from going pawn to e4 or pawn to e3. In some lines of the Benko, you could even play something like king captures on f1, and it's not a terrible thing, but this isn't one of them. Pawn to g3, we have pawn to d5 and bishop to g2, and the position has been reached in 2023 in the women's Grand Swiss between Maria Makrtyan and Nino Batsiashvili, and in that game knight to c6 was played. But here Nikolas goes bishop to d6, and it is now as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So now if you count the material, Kacper is up a pawn, but yeah, you have excellent development. You have the active bishop pair, you have the central control. What more do you want? White does have the passed a pawn, so it's something that you have to take into consideration. If the game goes, far into the end game, there's the strong bishop on g2 ready to escort that pawn all the way to queening. But of course, if you're playing the Benko, I guess you're looking maybe to end the game before reaching the end game. And here, knight to h3. Knight to f3 also can be played, but you really want to fight for that f4 square. So castles, and bishop to f4. Knight to c6 first, and bishop to f4. Now offering a trade of bishops, and now pawn to h6. Nikolas spent 20 minutes on this move. Because there's something is lurking in the position, and you have to calculate every single thing. And what's lurking is, I'm sure you guys already see it because you guys are amazing players, is knight captures on d5. This is what was played, and the idea behind it is that if you capture that knight, then comes bishop captures with check, where if the king moves, okay, you have that knight on c6, then the bishop on d6 and the rook will be attacked as well. And if you play knight captures, queen captures with check, you have to play just to survive. Rook f7, and then after queen is captured, the bishop is still hanging. You will play bishop to f8, and okay, now let's say rook 8 to d1. It's a difficult position for black to play, but and maybe you can survive. But Nikolas said, no, we're not playing that. He played knight captures on d5, and now after bishop captures on d5, he does not recapture. He goes knight to d4. He sacrifices the exchange, and now if you capture that rook, then comes knight captures on e2 check, and now after king to h1, queen captures on a8 comes with check. And now after f3, look at this, bishop captures on f4, knight captures, g captures, and now you can even play bishop captures on f1, queen captures, and rook captures on f4, and you have this position where the material is now equal, but the black king is much safer than the white king. The f3 pawn is saying you have something like king g2, e5, e4 is coming, so it's a really bad position for white. So after knight d4, Kacper said, all right, I'm not playing that. The six-time world chess solving champion goes for the absolute best move. Bishop captures on e6 with check. Knight captures, and now queen to d5. And this is a bit of an overstretch. It was better just to capture the bishop on d6. Here with queen to d5, it seems like you're threatening a Zwischenzug, or rather queen d5 being a Zwischenzug is just not a very good one. Queen to d7. And now the problem is you can no longer capture that bishop on d6 with the bishop. If you capture with the bishop, you can resign on the spot, as bishop to b7 attacks the queen once the queen moves, or maybe you go to d2, queen to c6. Comes with the threat of checkmate, f3, and now you get the rook into the game. Rook f to d8, you threaten to win the bishop, rook a to d1, and now look at this, knight d4, and you have to decide, do you want to give up the bishop, or do you want to save the bishop, and knight captures on f3 check, you give up the queen. So either way, you're going to lose. So after queen to d7, now he had to capture with the queen. Queen captures on d6 and queen to f7. And okay, it's still a very much playable position for both white and black. And if you count the material, white is even up 3 pawns, so should be very good. But the light square weaknesses around the white king are something that you can't simply, easily, shove under the rug. Sorry about that. And here, okay, rook f to e1. You know that a rook will come to e8, so you want that e2 pawn protected. You know the knight is coming to d4, so something like knight d4 captures on e2 could be deadly. And with the bishop on b7, that's, almost a checkmate. So knight to d4, and now giving up yet another pawn, but trading it for the e2 pawn, really. And there's not all that much you can play here. Bishop to e5 would be the best way to go about it, but here queen captures on c5 was played. Knight captures on e2 with check, and the question is how to continue here. Do you give up material, or do you try to move the king and survive? Well, the problem is if you play, let's say, king to g2, king f1 also just looks terrible. But if you play king g2, then look at this. Rook ac8, you attack the queen, and once the queen moves, okay, you attack the queen again. Queen d2, seems like white is very happy, just moving the queen back and forth. But now bishop b7 check, f3, and you're completely winning. It's not easy to spot, but it's there. I'll show you the first move. The second one you will have to find. Bishop captures on f3 check, king captures, and now where is the win? There's only one move, but yeah, it's a devastating one. So the win is rook c2. Beautiful stuff. And now, of course, if you capture knight to d4 with the royal fork, wins the game, and nothing to worry about there. And if you don't, if you play, let's say, queen d3, then queen to h5 check. You cannot go g4, as queen captures on h3 comes with check, and then comes king g2, and now you have a huge problem with the rook occupying the second rank. Knight captures on f4 with a double check and a royal fork, and that's it. You resign. King g1, you capture the queen. The rook is defended. And it's game over. So you cannot move the king. It doesn't matter. King g2 loses, king f1 even worse. You have to give up the exchange. Rook captures, bishop captures on e2, and now bishop to e5. And it's still very much a playable position. This is not lost in any way. But here comes bishop to f3, and it's not easy for white to make a move. So what would you play here? The problem is if you play a slow move like, let's say, rook c1, which seems like something you want to play because you don't want to allow rook to c8. Queen f5, and now the knight is hanging, but also you gain full control over that c8 square, and white can just resign. You can save the knight. It's not that you can't. Knight to f4, but then rook f to c8, and you resign. I mean, you're going to lose the rook and you get checkmated. So after bishop to f3, the immediate knight to f4 by Kacper. This is the best move by far. And now you could play a lot of moves here. You could just develop rook f to e8. You could also grab a pawn on a2. But we've already seen that Nikolas is not the kind of person that just grabs a pawn, even though no one would blame you. It was a hard game. You could just grab a pawn, call it a day, and that's it. But no, pawn to g5. Just going all out, going after the white king, and not satisfied with anything other than a full point. And it's hard to, again, make a move here. You could move the knight with something like knight to d3, but that just looks really weird. Then the rooks start coming into the game. Also, there's a bishop on f3, so you have to worry also about getting checkmated. You could also just play pawn to g4, cement that bishop there, and then look for checkmates. So it can be done. But, you know, time was already running low. Here, queen to d6 by Kacper. He says, all right, now I'm sacrificing and I'm going after your king. So can Nikolas survive this? Yes, he can, and it's even a winning position for him. But what you have to calculate to win this, it's almost feels inhuman. So look at this. G captures on f4. Queen captures on h6. We have queen h7. Okay, you have to stop checkmate. Queen to g5 check. King to f7. And now the problem is, again, what do you play here? Let's check queen f6 just for fun, because it is a lot of fun. King to e8. Okay, you will harass the king, of course. Let's say queen to e7. You will harass the king further. We'll play queen f7. And now you have to make a move somehow to avoid the queen trade and to get that rook to e1. So let's say you play queen to b6, which is, again, the best move by the engine. You're simply not in time because of f captures on g3. And now, okay, you can try rook e1. G captures on f2. Queen captures on f2. Seems like the rook is now in the game, but rook to a6. And there are no good discoveries here. If you try bishop to d6 check, okay, king d7, you go rook to e7. You can even win the queen. But the problem is after captures and captures, there's rook to g6 check, and that's all there is. King to f1, you cannot go to h1. Now bishop to g2, a double check, not a double check, but the bishop cannot be captured. And after the king moves, you will simply capture that queen. Rook captures, king captures, and you end the variation being up a full rook and a bishop. So queen f6, although, you know, looks very appealing, doesn't really do anything. So rook to c1. He tries to get it into the game. Rook to c7 check would end the game on the spot. But now is the question. How do you continue this? There's only one winning move for Nikolas. Try to find it. It is, of course, king to e6. Congratulations to everyone who found that. It's not an easy decision, but the mere existence of the bishop on this diagonal, preventing, let's say, rook to c6 check, makes it a little bit easier. And now Kacper, as I've already said, a 6-time world chess solving champion, finds big problems for Nikolas. Plays pawn to g4, and now he has all sorts of threats, and they're not easy to avoid. There's only one move that wins the game for Nikolas now, and again, maybe not the first one you think of. Have at it for the final time while I give you a couple of seconds. The move is rook to a5. And this is what Nikolas played. And now there's nothing here. There's no check that you can give. There's no threat that you can prepare. Rook to e1 was played, but now just king to d7. Again, the only move that wins, but the position is just completely winning for black. We have pawn to h3, even though you could trade queens here, but I mean, you're down too much material. Of course, you're down a full rook. It doesn't really do anything. So after king d7, h3 was played, and here Nikolas just played rook to g8, and he was in this position on move 29 that Kacper Piorun, 2-time Polish champion and 6-time world chess solving champion, resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Whatever you try, your queen is being threatened after queen captures and f4 is played. Again, there is only one way for Nikolas to win the game, as he just plays such chess. There's only one way. You either win or you're dead lost. You see it, of course. Rook captures on g4 with check, wins the queen, or if, of course, you capture with the pawn, then queen to h1 is checkmate. So yeah, beautiful game, and also, again, one of the reasons why, I simply love when Nikolas plays. He plays such weird chess, such beautiful chess. There's always stuff happening. Stuff is hanging, you attack 2 of his pieces, he hangs a 3rd one. So definitely, I would say a modern-day Tal. Someone mentioned in the previous video, wouldn't Dubov be more suited to be a modern-day Tal, as he is higher rated and he does play incredible chess? I wouldn't say, Dubov his moves are too precise, and he really plays. He never goes like -2, -3. Nikolas, he will go down to -5, 6, and still pirate his way all the way to victory. And that is why I said that he was more of a pirate than maybe Daniil. Daniil plays different chess. It's absolutely incredible, but he will not go into lost positions. That he can't really calculate. He just won't unless he absolutely has to. But yeah, if Daniil is playing, of course, we're showing that as well. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Not an easy one to even comprehend, but I mean, I thought this was a beautiful matchup because you have what I've just mentioned, and the game definitely did not disappoint. In round 6, Nikolas faced Bardya Daneshvar, and he did have an advantage. He had the white pieces, and he could push for a win. And it was a really funny moment. I thought about showing that game as well, but the only move that would allow him to play for a win, believe it or not, was pawn to b4. So it was a fun moment as well. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Derek King, Hernan Escalante Jr., Robert Kiefer, Edmund Freeman, and Stephen Wentworth for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.